Hello everyone, this is Mr. Brain Junkie here, and today we'll be talking about a fantasy action film called The Knights of Shadows. Be ready for some spoilers ahead. A long time ago, countless demons from a different dimension were able to escape into the human world, causing chaos and destruction as a result. Luckily, a demon hunter known as Song Ling was able to use his magical brush and capture all the demons who were good, but also punishing the evil ones by sending them into the abyss. Because of the man's incredible powers, he was greatly feared by all the monsters who has evil intentions for humanity, as they would run away immediately at the mere mention of his name. This includes a giant sea monster who has devoured a bunch of fishermen, but is now forced to run for its life as it tries desperately to shake off the demon slayer. Luckily, Song Ling is able to save all his demon friends and is grabbed onto by the tree monster, who prevents everyone from becoming fish food as the creature throws the people away. Song Ling takes the chance and tosses the green demon towards the enemy as the creature fires off his gas weapon, which almost knocks out the sea monster by its terrible smell. The main character takes out his magical brush and prepares to seal the enemy into the abyss as the monster slowly falls back into the water. The tree demon launches the man into the air as he begins conjuring a powerful spell like Doctor Strange and shooting out the chains towards the creature in the ocean. The magic is able to grab onto the enemy and quickly manages to overpower the monster as it pulls the enormous creature onto the surface. Song Ling begins opening a portal towards the abyss, which summons a powerful twister that quickly consumes the giant monster as it seals the creature inside his book. It turns out that the man was only telling the stories to a bunch of kids and trying to get them to buy his novels. However, the children are way too smart for the scam, causing Song Ling to burst out in anger after entertaining them for nearly 2 hours. At the same time, the local police are investigating a crime inside the jewelry store, and Officer Fei tries to tell the chief that he's found the criminal's identity. The man speculates that it must be a demon who committed the crimes, as the hairs that he found inside the room cannot belong to any human. The police chief thinks that Fei is talking nonsense and claims that it was obviously an inside job. He thinks that the owners are trying to scam the insurance and tells the man to arrest the people immediately before stealing some jewelries for himself as well. While the police are leaving the area, the people stop the officers immediately as the parents are complaining about Song Ling, who they claim is purposely scaring their children. Not willing to argue with the angry moms, the man quickly sends Fei to investigate their complaints and is able to sneak away at the same time. Very soon, the people make it onto the mountain where the main character resides, and Fei quickly notices something very odd as the jewelries are hanging on the chickens that the man owns. The parents rush towards the house in anger while the officer begins catching the animals and gathering the evidence at the same time. The women barge into the main character's living room and begins shouting furiously at the man while causing Song Ling to choke on his food. Luckily, this was all part of the man's plan as he summons the flower demon who erases the people's memories right away and makes them follow the man's orders immediately. Song Ling takes the chance and begins selling his books like the fake internet gurus while essentially stealing the people's money at the same time. Very soon, Fei begins seeing all the women leaving the area in happiness and realizes that something is very fishy as he rushes towards the house to confront the man. The officer charges into the room and demands to know why Song Ling has the jewelries that were stolen from the store and accusing him of hiding demons inside his house. The hunter quickly realizes that one of his pupils is likely responsible for the crime, but Fei begins handcuffing the main character immediately and not allowing him to explain. Luckily, the officer's policing skills are even worse than his lack of brain cells, as he fails to capture the main character and gets tied up by the demon hunter instead. Before the man can escape, the green demon jumps towards him and knocks him out by using the gas weapon, which likely killed off the officer's remaining brain cells as well. When Fei eventually wakes up, he quickly realizes that he's flying in the air, which almost scared him into a heart attack. Song Ling sees this and tries to comfort the man as he tells the officer that they're going to catch the criminal very soon. They arrive towards the marketplace and the hunter unleashes the young man's ability to see demons by drawing on his face and destroying his dignity at the same time. They are eventually able to see the true culprit of the crimes that appears to be a demon pig, which causes the people to chase after the creature immediately. The two follows the monster closely behind, and it's quickly revealed that the pig was doing all this to marry his true love, which turns out to be a female donkey. The true mastermind is actually another demon hunter who promised to exchange the animal for all the jewelries. However, before the trade can be made, Song Ling arrives into the area, which forces the thief to run away. The main character is quickly able to corner the pig as he sucks the creature into a vial by using his magical brush. At the same time, Faye is trying to capture the thief, causing them to fall down towards the ground and landing onto the other police officers by accident. They are able to capture the criminal immediately, but the police chief decides to take all the credits instead and quickly fires the young officer to cover up the truth. Faye is shocked by the injustice, which causes him to scream in anger, but is quickly silenced by the lady upstairs who threw very suspicious liquids onto the man's face. On the other side, a young girl is sneaking out against her parents' knowledge and eventually arrives in front of a mysterious building. She slowly goes into the place that's filled by mirrors and demands the owner to show her the magical item that can make her even more beautiful. The mysterious woman tells her to sit down and begins conjuring a spell behind the girl, which appears to control her mind immediately. The young girl eventually walks outside like a zombie as her friend is confused by what's going on, and she quickly enters into a carriage that begins to fly towards the sky. It turns out that the mysterious woman was actually a powerful demon who's capable of traveling across the mirrors. The young girl continues to hover in the air as she flies across the mountains, but is quickly stopped by a bunch of talismans that nullifies the demon's powers. The carriage is slowly brought down onto a bridge, and a demon hunter known as Kai begins walking out into the opening. The man conjures up a spell immediately, which quickly destroys the demons guarding the girl. Before Kai can free the victim, he notices something approaching from behind, which turns out to be a demon in red dress who's known as Xiao Chen. It's quickly revealed that they have a close history together as they begin arguing like an old couple. However, no matter how much the man pleads, the demon refuses to release the girl as she requires consuming the victim's soul to become immortal. This forces Kai to begin summoning his magic that releases countless talismans towards the demon as he tries to capture the opponent. He charges onto the flying papers and tries furiously to stop the woman, but the enemy quickly deflects the attack and continues to escape into the air. Kai chases closely behind, but Xiao Chen is able to launch a counterattack which pushes the man backwards using tremendous force. Luckily, Kai is able to recover quickly and releases all his power towards the demon, eventually surrounding her completely by using his talismans and throwing her onto the ground. The man goes towards the demon immediately while the woman dares him to end her life, but Kai only wants to take back the spiritual energy inside her body. He begins drawing out the demon's aura without harming her, but is quickly overpowered by the enemy who knocks the man into the trees like a ragdoll. The demon tells him that she never wants to see him again before flying off into the sky alongside the young girl and causing Kai to scream desperately for the woman's name. Xiao Chen flies back onto the mountaintop and lands in front of a temple that was abandoned for a long time. The mirror demon eventually appears in the room as well and quickly reveals that she's actually the woman's sister. The two are able to seal the young girl onto the wall and turns her into a painting where they plan to devour her soul to extend their own lives. However, Xiao Chen doesn't seem to be interested in consuming the energy, as the only person that she's thinking about is Kai. The mirror demon realizes her sister's inability to let go and promises to kill the man herself, but Xiao Chen obviously disagrees as she still has feelings for the demon hunter. On the other side, Song Ling begins to discipline the pig demon as he threatens to send the monster into the abyss if the creature ever commits another crime. The demon hunter eventually decides to release the monster like a Pokemon and grounds the pig into his room for stealing the jewelries. Before the man is able to rest, Song Ling is surprised to see the police officer walking into the house and begins begging the main character to be his master. The demon hunter refuses immediately but fails to break the young man's persistency and is forced to accept the horrible deal as fate continues to wreak havoc in his home. The next morning, Song Ling wakes up while noticing something very delicious and quickly sees the demons waiting for him in front of the cuisines. The man begins eating without asking any questions, and it turns out that Faye has decided to impress the master master by making him breakfast. Song Ling is surprised by the man's cooking skills, but quickly finds out that these are the chickens from his house, which are actually the demon hunter's beloved pets. This greatly angers the man as he starts recalling the names of the animals and leaving Faye in utter confusion as the master begins praying for his pets. However, their conversation is quickly interrupted by the blue demon, who tells them about the young girl that went missing, and they plan to investigate immediately to find the victim. They arrive towards the mysterious building that has already been locked down and secretly goes inside so they can find out what happened last night. The demon pig begins to sniff around the area and eventually finds a piece of cloth that belongs to the young girl. The flower demon sees this and grabs onto the material before using her magical powers to reveal the memories of the item. The people are quickly able to see that the girl was kidnapped by the mirror demon and taken into the mountains nearby. Song Ling realizes the enormous danger and tells Faye to quickly find the enemy's nest while using the flower demon's memories. The tiny creature begins leading the man towards the mountains, and Faye is eventually able to reach the temple as he sees the ghostly figure of a woman in red dress. At the same time, Kai is having dinner inside the restaurant while the mirror demon goes inside the building as well, and the man is quickly able to sense her aura. After catching the man's attention, the woman begins to leave as she tries to lure the demon hunter away, and Kai immediately follows the enemy just like she planned. The man eventually makes it into the store that's filled by mirrors, and the demon quickly appears to confront the hunter. She warns Kai to stay away from her sister, but the man refuses to allow Xiao Chen to continue harming others. The woman is infuriated by the hunter's stubbornness and begins conjuring her magic to strike down the man as she slaps him around like he owes her alimony. The demon eventually grabs onto Kai by choking his neck and trying to kill the man for her sister, but the hunter is able to break free and counters immediately. However, he's quickly outmatched by the demon as she continuously teleports between the mirrors and making it almost impossible to defend her attacks. The man is eventually knocked towards the wall and quickly grabbed onto by a bunch of hands and legs as the enemy begins to choke him out. The demon appears above the hunter and tries to finish the kill, but is grabbed onto by another hand that belongs to her sister. It turns out that Xiao Chen was watching this fight the whole time and refuses to let the man die, causing her sister to call her a fool as she's obviously blinded by love. Before the fight continues, Song Ling rushes into the place and tries to steal the demon immediately, which causes the woman to retreat. The hunter goes to check on the unconscious man and tells the tree demon to take Kai away from the area while he makes sure that the enemy has truly left. As the man continues looking around, he's quickly grabbed onto by a pair of hands that belongs to the mirror demon, who pulls him into the glass and leaving only his lower body behind. The man runs desperately away from the enemy as he tries to kick the woman back, but only ends up breaking his family jewels in the process. Song Ling is eventually able to grab onto the flying demon, which pulls out his upper body as well, and he finally manages to put himself back together. The man summons the sealing magic and launches numerous chains towards the demon, which is able to grab onto the enemy and pulls her into the abyss. After the furious battle, Kai slowly regains consciousness and goes towards Song Ling immediately as he thanks the man for rescuing his life. However, their conversation is quickly interrupted by Faye, who tells the master that he's found the demon's hideout. Kai hears this and begs the people to allow him to join the fight as well, and the main character agrees to the man's request, not realizing that he's actually the demon's lover. Very soon, Xiao Chen begins noticing the presence of the demon hunters as the people slowly arrive into her home, causing the woman to fly towards them as she prepares to fight. Kai tells the demon to give up her spiritual energy and become a mortal once again, but the woman refuses the man's offer just like before. Things become even worse when Xiao Chen recognizes the main character as the one who killed her sister, causing her to attack immediately. Song Ling begins conjuring his spell, but is quickly stopped by Kai, giving the woman a chance to attack the others as she quickly ties up Faye like a mummy and throwing him onto a tree. The demon helpers attack the enemy altogether, but they're proven to be no match for the woman as they're easily disposed of by the opponent. Xiao Chen flies towards the demon hunters and knocks Kai into the walls like a ragdoll before grabbing onto Song Ling and pulling him into the air. The woman ties her ropes onto the man's neck and begins choking him to death, but Song Ling refuses to give up as he tries using his mouth to conjure the spell. Kai sees this and charges towards the man while managing to stop the magic and saving the woman's his life at the same time. He continuously tells the demon to run as he tries desperately to hold back the main character and giving the woman a chance to escape, eventually allowing her to fly into the air. After seeing that the enemy is gone, Kai quickly apologizes to Song Ling and begs the man to forgive him, but only makes things even worse as he accidentally drops the hunter onto the ground. When they finally return back to the main character's home, Song Ling uses the flower demon to reveal the memories of Kai so they can finally see the truth about the past. It turns out that Kai used to be a snake demon who met the woman when she was still a human girl. He noticed her shadow and jumped inside, eventually turning into his human form, and surprisingly, Xiao Chen did not show any fear for the demon's presence. The two quickly fell in love as the days go by, and Kai begins to wonder what it's like to become a human. Xiao Chen decides to grant him this wish and takes on his demonic spirit, which causes Kai to become mortal. However, when the woman's temple was attacked by bandits, she used her powers to kill the people, which corrupted her spirit as well. Kai thinks that this is all his fault and tries to become stronger by slaying demons, hoping that eventually he can take back the woman's energy and turn her into a human again. The people now understand the man's unfortunate past, and Kai begs the main character to save his lover and take back the demon's energy. Although Song Ling wants to help, he doesn't think that they can actually capture the woman without killing her, but is eventually able to conjure up a plan. Later that night, they dress up like merchants that are from outside the city, and Faye quickly takes the men into a festival where numerous young girls are dancing for the celebration. They realize that Xiao Chen is wounded from their previous fight and must consume the souls of the girls to regain her power, making this the perfect trap for capturing the demon. Very soon, the woman is forced to enter the city just like they expected, as her spiritual powers are running out very quickly. While waiting for the demon to appear, Kai begins to sense a familiar presence, causing him to look for his lover immediately, and the woman eventually appears behind the man's back. Kai turns around slowly and tells the demon to give back his energy so that she can finally become a human once more, but Xiao Chen no longer desires to return to normal. He tells the woman that he's only trying to protect her from being killed, but Xiao Chen ignores the man completely and pushes him towards the pillar, which knocks him out as a result. She goes towards the demon hunter and slowly caresses the man's face, telling him that she'll take on the consequences by herself as she only wants him to live a happy life. Xiao Chen flies towards the festival immediately, and upon entering the building, she quickly realizes that it's a trap as she's able to see through the main character's disguise. She goes towards the backstage and begins absorbing the soul of a young girl so that she's able to have enough power for fighting her enemies. The woman pretends to be the girl that she killed and quickly goes onto the stage, but Song Ling is able to see through her disguise as well. The hunter tells Faye that their enemy is here, causing the men to shout for everyone to run as all the people panic in fear while trying desperately to escape the area. Xiao Chen quickly returns to her true form and begins releasing all her powers into the air, causing her to fly towards the roof and burst out into the sky. The woman eventually transforms into a giant serpent and crashes inside the building as she charges furiously towards the people while causing damage everywhere that she goes. The monster is able to corner the humans and tries to kill them with her enormous mouth, while Song Ling desperately defends the attacks by using his magical weapon. The hunter demands that she returns the spiritual energy to Kai, but this only angers the demon even more as she nearly kills the people by launching towards them. Song Ling realizes that he has no other choice but to seal the vicious demon and launches the magical chains towards the monster, eventually managing to capture the creature. The demon continues to struggle as she bounces around the buildings, but the spell quickly forces the woman into her human form as she releases all the souls inside her body. Song Ling continues to pull down the enemy and is finally able to seal her inside the book, while the souls of the victims begin to fly towards the temple. The energies are able to return back to the rightful owners and reviving the girls that were captured by the demon. Kai eventually makes it into the building and demands to know where his lover is, but Song Ling tells the man that she's already been sealed. This causes him to grab onto the main character and screams in despair as the hunter calls for the flower demon, and the girl is able to wipe out the man's memories immediately. Song Ling tells Kai that he's now a simple scholar before returning the man's consciousness once again, and he begins acting like a different person who has completely forgotten about his lover. The next day, the people receive the news about the demon's demise, causing everyone to celebrate for the return of the missing girls. The townsmen decided to visit their heroes, and the mayor quickly assigns Faye to be the new police chief, while his daughter thanks the young man for saving her life. What they don't realize is that the flower demon feels very guilty for taking away Kai's memories, and she's able to find the man in the forest, who's now finally at peace. She decides to return the memories by using her magic, causing Kai to notice that something is wrong, as a feeling of regret and hopelessness begins to surface. He eventually makes it back towards the temple and sees all the paintings of young girls on the wall, which makes him realize that a very important person is missing. The man looks down onto his shadow and begins to see the shape of his lover on the ground, and Kai finally remembers that this person was taken away from his life. This causes him to kneel down onto the floor and cry hopelessly in despair. Later that day, when Songlin returns home after the celebration, he notices that someone is inside the building and quickly finds out that Kai has returned. The hunter is confused by why the man is here, but Kai quickly conjures a spell that knocks the main character towards the wall and paralyzing him in the process. He eventually goes on to take the magical brush and begins using the item to open the gateway into the abyss. Kai is quickly launched into a different dimension that throws him around in blinding speed, but the man is able to regain his balance by using the weapon to center himself. Very soon, he begins to hear the sound of screaming as he sees countless prisons floating in space where thousands of demons are trapped inside. He quickly flies across the buildings as he tries desperately to find his lover and is eventually able to hear a terrible scream that's very familiar. Kai rushes towards the sound immediately and eventually arrives into a massive building where he's able to find Xiao Chen, who's continuously being tortured. He flies towards the woman right away and is finally together with his lover once again, but he's horrified to see the suffering that Xiao Chen has been through. The woman sees Kai and tells him to leave immediately, but this only causes the man to embrace her in tears as he promises to free her no matter the cost. Kai begins taking out the spiritual energy from his lover and eventually absorbing it into his own body. This causes the chains to tie onto him and pull him away from the area, but the woman grabs onto the man as she refuses to let him go. Kai realizes that only death is waiting for him, causing him to push the woman away as he gets dragged towards the gates of hell while his lover is screaming in tears. However, the man is able to use the power of his weapon to break away the restraints before he is killed. The chains try to grab onto the man once again, but they're clearly no match for his newfound powers. Kai begins summoning all his energy by using the weapon and eventually manages to cause a massive shockwave that destroys everything nearby and cutting the buildings into pieces. The enormous structures crash into the gates of hell and causing tremendous damage in the process, which releases all the demons away from the prisons as they all fly for their freedoms. At the same time, Fei has decided to pay his master a visit, but only to see that Songlin has been attacked by numerous talismans, causing him to free the man immediately. The people are able to make it inside the area, but quickly sees that all the monsters are trying to escape, eventually flying off into the human world. They immediately rush towards the gates of hell, only to see that Kai is completely out of control as he becomes corrupted by the spiritual energy that he took. Songlin demands that Kai return his weapon right away, but this only causes the man to smile as he releases a giant serpent to attack the people. The monster rushes towards the humans right away and knocks the people into the air, but the tree demon is able to catch up just in time and save all his friends from being killed. Kai sees this and summons a second monster, which quickly goes after the other demons that are floating in the air. The tree demon continues to run away from the enemy and is eventually able to trick the monster by making a sharp turn and causing the serpent to crash into the rocks. At the same time, the green demon has conjured up a stinky plan and begins releasing all his gas into the air, while the flower demon lights up the chemicals, which blows up the enemy as a result. However, this is not enough to finish the fight as Kai begins conjuring up even more power while turning himself into a giant monster. The creature goes after the people immediately as it destroys all the buildings nearby and causing the team to escape desperately as they dodge the serpent's furious attacks. Realizing that they can't evade the monster forever, Songlin tells the tree demon to head for the gates of hell so they can trap the enemy inside the barrier. They fly towards the center as the massive serpent chases closely behind, and the people are barely able to dodge the attack while crashing inside the buildings. Songlin takes the chance and tries to get back his weapon, but ends up being knocked away by Kai and blasted by the man's magic. The two continues to fight furiously in the air, eventually causing them to crash out from the buildings, but Song Ling is quickly overpowered by the enemy and pushed back towards the walls. Kai charges up all his power and plans to finish the kill, but Xiao Chen stops her lover immediately and manages to save the demon hunter's life. Refusing to see that Kai has become a monster, the woman begins flying towards the gates of hell as the man quickly chases after her as well. Xiao Chen eventually enters the barrier as she heads directly towards the portal that's filled by fire, but Kai is able to catch her in the last moment and refuses to let her go. However, the woman pushes herself away from the man as she begins drifting into the void, and she tells Kai that this is the only place that they can truly be together. Realizing that there's no place for them in the outside world, Kai lets go of the magical weapon and finally accepts their fate as he slowly flies towards the person that he loves. The two looks lovingly towards each other while sharing a final kiss as their bodies are slowly turned into dust and disappears into the winds. The people watch the couple perish inside the gates of hell, and Song Ling begins to feel a deep sorrow inside his heart. The main character eventually decides to write down the story about the couple's unbreakable love so they can live on forever inside the minds of those who discovers their beautiful tale. The next morning, Song Ling prepares to head out into the city alongside his pupil as they now have to capture all the demons that escaped into their world. So what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like my videos, please press like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time.